Okay. Hi there. I'm Colin, and welcome to this live video. I decided to do a live video. I don't know if anybody's going to be watching it. Not really the point. The point is that in this video, I'm going to be going through the Beatles studio discography and picking one song per album. And I thought of this idea a while ago, but I didn't have the time to get into it. So I thought I would do it live. And I also want to sort of test the live setup and see how everything turns out, audio and video wise, so that hopefully in the future, the not too distant future, I can start doing live videos again, which I did at the beginning of my channel. And it was fun. It was fun interacting. And there's going to be no interaction if nobody's watching it. I'm in Australia, and it's like it's 8:40 here, and there's quite a time difference between North America, which is where most of my viewers are. But anyways, if you're watching this after the fact, cheers to you, cheers to me. I'm drinking a Guinness here, hmm, which I've been buying since I moved to Australia, thinking that I was drinking a nice, delicious imported Irish beer. But then I read the side of the can for no particular reason the other day, and I discovered that it's brewed in New South Wales. So bummer there. But without ado, let's get right into it. We're going to look at the Beatles' first album, which is Please Please Me, 1963. Up on Spotify, they've got the remastered edition. I grew up listening to the record and the compact disc later on bus trips between Toronto and my hometown visiting a lady. But this album, I'm thinking that the earlier album should be a little easier to go through. So Please Please Me, we've got some decent tracks on here. Um, right off the bat, I think I know what I'm going to pick, but some notable mentions on here would be Love Me Do. It's a classic. P.S. I Love You, not listened to as much by me, but I do enjoy the track. And there's also some early tracks, like There's a Place and the cover Twist of Shout, which are neat. Taste of Honey's kind of one of those ones. A lot of the earlier recordings, I find that stuff gets stuck in my head. And I do go back to it and listen to it from time to time. But I think there's only really one track that you can pick off this thing if you have to take one with you. And for me, it's definitely going to be I Saw Her Standing There. So I forgot to get my notepad. And we're live, so we're going to have to bear with me. But I kind of want to track as I go, kind of want to track which songs I choose and the songwriter, just as a note. So from Please Please Me, I should have prepared this goddamn notepad a little earlier, but from Please Please Me, I'm going to go with I Saw Her Standing There. So I saw her standing there. And I'm going to use a pen and paper here. It's pretty low tech off of Please Please Me. And of course, that I would say is a Paul McCartney song for sure. Paul. We'll see who wins between Paul and George at the end of this. And I haven't thought about this beforehand, as you may be able to tell. So we'll see how it goes. So yeah, this is probably one of my least listened to Beatles albums as well. But scrolling along, we've got With the Beatles. This is actually one of my favorite Beatles albums. I love this thing. I definitely listened to the later stuff a lot more, but I did get into this at a certain point, and I was going. And there's interesting tracks here that are a little tough to kind of go through because there's some classics, All My Lovin'. It Won't Be Long, which I think is a bit of a buried one. There's some not so good ones, Little Child, which I think is a George Harrison one. Not the greatest, to be honest with you. Please, Please, Mr. Postman. That was stuck in my head for so goddamn long. I think I'm gonna choose one that I don't think a lot of people would, and I could be wrong here, but I'm gonna choose You've Really Got a Hold on Me, which I believe is a cover. And somebody let me know in the comments who did that cover. I'm doing this live, so with the Beatles. With the Beatles. Um, and I'm going to go with You've Really Got a Hold on Me, which is a cover. And I doubt that the covers are going to win the competition. If you just join me, which one person is picking one Beatles song per album, and I'm keeping track of the songwriter. And my pick for this one for With the Beatles is going to be You've Really Got a Hold on Me. And we lost the viewer. We lost the goddamn viewer. This is why I don't do live videos anymore, because it affects the self-esteem at the end of the day. Anyways, moving along through the list here. We're going to go to the next album. And we've got A Hard Day's Night. And this one, this is probably one of my least listened to Beatles albums of all time, if I'm being honest with you. I like the song "I'm Happy Just to Dance with You." I do like that track, but you've got songs like "Can't Buy Me Love" and "You Can't Do That," which is a good one. I do like that. This is kind of light in terms of the hits, though. Looking at this, you've got "A Hard Day's Night," and "I Love Her." It's a great track. "You Can't Buy Me Love." Oof. I'm gonna have to go with "Can't Buy Me Love" for this, and my taste might be a little basic here, but you know what? Too damn bad. "Hard Day's Night." "Can't Buy Me Love," which is definitely a Paul song. So Paul wins again. Paul is cleaning up in these early records so far and a cover. But I think things might take a turn towards Lennon. Although Lennon did have some pretty good songs early on there. I mean, they're all credited to Lennon McCartney, but I would say the two that I picked from Paul are definitely Paul songs. "It Won't Be Long" would be a tough one to go for off of "With the Beatles," but I am going to stick to my original choices. So recapping before we move on to the next album, from Please Please Me, I picked "I Saw Her Standing There," which is a Paul track. With the Beatles, I picked "You've Really Got a Hold on Me," which is a cover. And "Hard Day's Night," I chose "Can't Buy Me Love," which is definitely a Paul song. So let's move it right along here. Beatles for Sale. This is when things started to get a little more interesting. I think this is definitely where John started to pick up his writing quite a bit. And there's a couple of tracks that I can see right off the bat that it's going to be hard to choose between here. Notably, "I Don't Want to Spoil the Party." I've always loved that song. Although I act and I laugh like a clown, beneath this mask I am wearing a frown. That's a great track. Might pick it, but going up here, you've got 8 Days a Week, which is a great track. Great singing in that. Really great harmonies. I tried to drunkenly sing 8 Days a Week at a karaoke, and I embarrassed myself thoroughly. And I can still, sometimes when I'm alone, I think about how bad my rendition of that track was. But if I have to pick one pick off the Beatles, 1964, it's going to be, it's a toss up between Babies in Black. It's a toss up between Babies in Black and I'm a Loser. But I'm going to have to go with "I'm a Loser," because "I'm a Loser" is one of those early Beatles songs where the lyric content is kind of a juxtaposition of the happy song. So you've got the classic happy Beatles rock number, and then you've got these lyrics to "I'm a Loser," which are just hilarious. "I'm a loser." So yeah, I'm going to go with "I'm a Loser" off of the Beatles, off of Beatles for Sale. So Beatles for Sale, "I'm a Loser." All right. Definitely a great pick. And that's a John song. So recapping, off of Please Please Me, I chose "I Saw Her Standing There." Off With the Beatles, I chose "You've Really Got a Hold on Me," which is a cover. Off of Hard Day's Night, I chose "Can't Buy Me Love," which is a Paul song. And off of Beatles for Sale, I'm going to go with "I'm a Loser," which is most definitely a John Lennon song. Okay, let's move on. This is where things could start to get incredibly difficult. I'll actually help. And for some reason, the track listings have gone blank on Spotify here. That's not going to help things at all. I might have to reload that. That's going to be a dang old pain in the neck. This is the hazards of going live. Anyways, there we go. It's right there again. Let's go back here. Oh geez, all the way back. We're not going to go all the way through those extended re-releases and 65 through whatever albums. We're just going to stick to the original discography here. So let's get back. Oh, hopefully this doesn't crash out again, because this is a pain in the neck. Sorry to do this to you live if you're watching. We've had some people pop in. I wasn't expecting to get much. This is an unannounced stream, but Help, 1965, 14-track album. There's some really good ones on here, again, where they started to expand their styles and get away from just the straight sort of pop imaginations. You've got a track like "Help," which is a fantastic song. Again, a very cheerful song with some somewhat somber content. You've got to hide your love away, which is an absolute classic. That's kind of like the beginning of the rockers, just putting the band down and grabbing the acoustic and doing the ballad. Later on, we'd have Paul um, doing "Yesterday," which I think is also on this one. So John or Paul came up with "Yesterday," or "You've Got to Hide Your Love Away," and dropped an acoustic number, and it bred a little bit of competition, and we got these great bloody tracks. But it's hard to pick just one off this album. I got to tell you, I need to take a little sip here, and that might help me make a decision. Hmm. Some underrated tracks too, like "Another Girl" is a very good track, and you're gonna lose that girl. That was stuck in my head for a very long time. That might be the one. "Ticket to Ride's" a good song. "Act Naturally," I believe, is a Buck Owens cover. I love the guitar playing in that track. I think George as a session guy is underrated. Like, "Oh, just give us that Act Naturally solo off the top of your head. We've got 45 minutes to record this track." Um, mm, there's some not so great Beatles tracks on this particular album as well. "I've Just Seen a Face" is a great one. "Yesterday's" a classic, but if I have to pick just one album here or one track off this album, oh, it's tough. It's really tough. Oh, you're gonna lose that girl. I'm gonna pick that. I've lost every viewer who's joined this stream, and I'm gonna choose "You're Gonna Lose That Girl" off. So help. You're gonna lose that girl. And that's a John track. So "Help." We've got "You're Gonna Lose That Girl." So just recapping again as we go on here. "Please Please Me," "I Saw Her Standing There," Paul track. With the Beatles, "You've Really Got a Hold on Me," which is a cover. "Hard Day's Night," "Can't Buy Me Love," which is a Paul track. "Beatles for Sale." Uh, I can't even read what I've written there. This stream is going off the fucking. I'm a loser, John. Loser. There we go. And off "Help," I chose "You're Gonna Lose That Girl," which is John. So we got a tie right now. John, Paul, Paul. Pretty even split. But let's keep pounding away here. This is where things take a wonderful turn, and the decisions are going to get very hard. So "Rubber Soul," 1965, and they dropped "Help" and "Rubber Soul" in the same goddamn year. Wow, that's like Radiohead putting out OK Computer and was it the Bends, I think it was, or whatever, the one before that in the same year. It's unheard of these days. And the time that they managed to record these albums in was unbelievable as well. I think "Rubber Soul" was the first one where they dedicated themselves to a little more studio time, but you've got really great songs on here. "Norwegian Wood," "Nowhere Man," which is a classic. "Michelle," unbelievable track, but I know what song I love the most off this album, and it's got to be "Girl." And "Girl" has some unbelievable lyrics. There's a one that really just stuck in my head. "Well, she told when she was young that pain would lead to pleasure. Did she understand it when they said that a man would break his back to earn his day of leisure? Will she still believe it when he's dead?" I don't know how that enters into the equation, but these are the musings of a young man growing up in post-war England, and that would be something that some old man must have muttered to him at the bar one night. "A man must break his back to earn his day of leisure, and no, my wife would believe it when I'm dead." You remember that, and you'll go far in life, young man. All right, so "Rubber Soul," "Girl," "Soul," "Girl," and that's definitely a John track. And I'm not going to recap here. I will when we move along a little further. So, looking at "Revolver," 1966, just a year later, right? "Rubber Soul" comes out, changes the game, and "Revolver" comes out a year later, and it's even a better evolution of what the Beatles would become. And again, the choices get hard here. One track per album. You've got Eleanor Rigby, I'm Only Sleeping. You've got Here, There, and Everywhere, which is a great song. A lot of these songs are ones that when I first heard them, I kind of passed. And then over the years, back when I used to have a Discman, and I used to listen to albums in their entirety. You're on a bus trip. You're not going to take the bloody disc out and change it all the time. You're going to listen to the whole album, or at least you can skip through. But this is a tough one. This is the first really tough choice that I'm going to have to make, because I love And Your Bird Can Sing. I love those harmony guitars. The Beatles doing harmony guitars long before anyone cared about that sort of thing. Um, mm, there's just interesting tracks on this one that are hard to overlook. Taxman, absolute, the bass line, amazing. I was listening to the Les Claypool Delirium, and there's a song called What's Wrong with Mr. Right, or something like that. It's like he's creeping, 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 creeping. Mr. Right. Yeah, What's Wrong with Mr. Right, I think it's called. Anyways, it's John Lennon's son is in the band. And the bass line for that song sounds like a really sped up, frenetic, paranoid version of the bass line from Taxman. Go listen to that if you feel like it. But off of this one, I'm going to pick I'm Only Sleeping. I think I'm Only Sleeping is a stunning song. It's also an example of a Beatles song where the acoustic guitars are, you listen to them and isolate them in your earphones. And I used to be able to do that when I had the Discman. It was still the mono recordings, and you could just take one off and you could almost isolate, kind of like what people do with isolating things now. It's so easy to do. Anybody can do it with the software. But I used to do it by, if I was listening to a stereo, I would mute one side or pan over to the other side, or if I was on a Discman, I would take one off and just listen like that. And the acoustic guitar in I'm Only Sleeping is so beautiful. I don't even know what you would call that kind of guitar playing on that track, but the musicianship and the harmonies in I'm Only Sleeping, to this day, they just blow my mind. And I'm one of those losers who drives around the car doing the harmony parts. They're always fucking wrong, but I do have the one harmony part from I'm Only Sleeping that I can do. And every time I listen to that track, I manage to get it. But that's a stunning track. And I'm probably going to listen to that before I go to bed tonight. Only Sleeping. And that's off of Revolver. Okay. And that's a John one. So John's starting to clean up as we progress through the discography. Will he remain on top? We don't know, but let's just keep her moving here. Next album. We've got not Strawberry Fields Forever. Jesus. What's going on here? The deluxe edition. So there's like all these take 7s, take 26. We're not going to talk about any of those. We're just going to look at the main track listings. But there's a lot of great stuff that's come out off, outtakes and stuff like that from the recording sessions that you can go and listen to that are really fantastic. And of course, there's the giant documentary where you get to be a fly on the wall. But anyways, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, picking only one track. Let me know if you are watching in the comments what track you would pick off of here. This is a tough one, but this is actually not one of my favorite Beatles albums. In terms of making a mark, obviously this thing was huge. But if I have to pick one track off of this, I'd be very tempted to take A Day in the Life. I really would. But I actually think I'm going to go with Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, because that's like a dimensional revolution from, if we go from, let's take the first track I picked, I Saw Her Standing There, and then just how many years later, 5 years later, that was 1963, I think, or even if it was 62, that's just like 5 years later, you get to Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. What an evolution. What other bands? I think now bands can evolve a lot more, but what other bands have an evolution of like that in their career? I'm going to pick an obscure band. Say Ween has an evolution arc like that. Their first stuff was like Tape Machine in their crummy apartment sort of thing, and they became an amazing band. They have a full-on prog album, in my opinion, which is Quebec. But the evolution from I Saw Her Standing There to Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds is unbelievable. So I'm going to go with that track off Sgt. Pepper's. I'm going to go with Lucy in the Sky, Sgt. Pepper's. I'm going to pick that. And that is most definitely a John Lennon song. Interesting story about how he wrote Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. I think there was a number of tracks where he used the newspaper, but I do remember there being a painting by one of Paul's. Interesting story. If I fucking knew it, I'm going to stop myself right there before I make a complete arse of myself. But I think it was a painting that one of Paul's daughters made. There is obviously the speculation about the track because it's LSD, but there's other words too, like IT. So it'd actually be LITSWD. I mean, LSD. Obviously, they took some LSD, and that's actually the song Dr. Robert off of Revolver is kind of touches on that. There's a story behind that I do know is that there was a dentist that gave the Beatles LSD to try for the first time. He was prescribing medicine a little bit off the record there. Anyways, let's keep moving along here. If we can get through all the remixes and remasters, but Magical Mystery Tour 1967. This is probably one of my least listened to albums, although there's a couple of tracks that I've really gotten into over the years. I do love Hello Goodbye, Strawberry Fields Forever. I do understand that those were kind of released as singles, may not be necessarily included on these albums if you listen to the original versions like I did. I think the first one that I had didn't have them on it, and then I bought one down the road that did have it. But I'm definitely going to say that my favorite track, Fool on the Hill, is a great one. I do love it, but Your Mother Should Know. What a weird track and a great giant music video for it that you can find on YouTube, which is absolutely bizarre, but definitely Your Mother Should Know. It's a weird song. It's definitely when Paul started to go kind of show tunesy and jazz handsy, but it's a great track. So I'm going to need another piece of paper here. So Magical. And this is a Paul track. Most definitely. Your Mother Should Know. Your mother should know. That's a Paul track. And we'll recap maybe in a couple of albums here. But definitely, if I was to pick one track off that one, it would be Your Mother Should Know. It's a weird track, but I love that damn track. Moving on to the Beatles. Oh, this is incredible. This is a double album. So should I break the rule and pick two tracks? I think so. White Album, but we're just going to do side record one and no, you know what? We're going to stick to the rules. The White Album, just one track. We're going to stick to the rules because otherwise, what's the point of this channel here? What's the point of my existence? One track on the White Album. This is the toughest possible thing. I think I know what I'm going to choose, but I need to look at the full list because the second album really had some great stuff on it. Yeah, it really did. It also had some pretty Savoy Truffle was always a tough listen. Revolution 9, long is a track that I think could have been released elsewhere. But it's the Beatles' White Album, man. Your Blues, great track, but you know what? My favorite track off the White Album has always been Happiness is a Warm Gun, again, because like I'm Only Sleeping, it's a track that kind of sticks out and makes you when you hear it, you're like, what was that track? What genre is that? Even to this day, I've never heard a track that sounds like that. The harmonies are incredible. The demented guitar solo where he's kind of talking about I need a fix because I'm going down. It's like talking about heroin withdrawals or something. It's a crazy guitar solo for 1968. It really is. The attitude in that solo, I think it might be John playing it. I'm not too sure. If you know who played that guitar solo, let me know in the comments. But what a bloody track that is. That's definitely what I'm going to go with. White Album. Happiness, Warm Gun, and it's a John track. And Paul, Paul took the last one, but let's just recap. Please Please Me, I Saw Her Standing There was a track that I chose. That's a Paul track. You've Really Got a Hold on Me off of With the Beatles. That's a cover. Hard Day's Night, Can't Buy Me Love. That's a Paul track. Beatles for Sale, I'm a Loser, John track. Help, You're Gonna Lose That Girl, John track. Rubber Soul, Girl, John track. Revolver, I'm Only Sleeping. That's a John track. Sergeant Pepper's I chose Lucy in the Sky. That's a John track. And then right up till Magical Mystery Tour, in which I chose Your Mother Should Know. That's a Paul track. So now we get to the White Album. I've just chosen Happiness is a Warm Gun. Definitely Happiness is a warm gun off of that. But I mean, the Beatles White Album, there's so much there. This is one of those tracks when I had my Discman back in the day and I had, a CD wallet with 4 or 5 discs. This was one that would just, it just keep you going for like almost, I don't know, like an hour or so, over an hour of music. So great stuff. Yellow Submarine album, which I never truthfully listened to until much later on. I didn't, it was never available. If you went into HMV, which was kind of like the record store in Canada where I grew up, if you went into HMV, you wouldn't find a copy of this as you flip through the disc. This wouldn't be there. I know there was the film and the soundtrack and all that, but when I eventually did start listening to this, the track "Hey Bulldog" came across as being a fantastic one that is very much not pretty much not heralded at all. But "Hey Bulldog" is a fantastic track, and again, some great guitar work in there, some great roving bass lines on that track. It's fantastic. And you know what? Maybe I shouldn't have included the Yellow Submarine in this list, but it just kind of came up, and I thought, why the hell not? And it'd be a shame to overlook the track "Hey Bulldog." Hey Bulldog, which is definitely a John one. And John's cleaning up. Yeah. Do I lean towards John a little more? For sure. And it's criminal that on Spotify, it only has 25 million listens. That's a goddamn crime against humanity. Moving along, we're coming up towards the end of the Beatles. Abbey Road, which was actually recorded after Let It Be, but Let It Be was released after, I believe. Abbey Road's a masterpiece. I'm going to save this till last because to me, it is always the last Beatles album. If they chose to end on a note, I'm thinking they would have chose that. So let's go to Let It Be, 1970. This is a great album, though. Even though the circumstances under which it was recorded, they had a lot of trouble going. Obviously, the documentary was this, this recording process was the subject of the big Peter Jackson documentary, which I watched all in one go with my good friend Jim. Absolutely unbelievable to give you the opportunity to be a fly on the wall during that thing. But yeah, I would say my favorite track on here. It's tough because the unreleased track that's one of my favorite Beatles. We'll do favorite unreleased Beatles track after. We'll get into that because probably my favorite Beatles track ever was not on one of the big studio releases, but on the original studio release, I'm gonna go with Two of Us. I love that track. That's a Paul track. Let It Be. It be Two of Us. Yeah, that's a Paul track. I love it. I just love that track. It's such a happy track. The harmonies between John and Paul there, and especially when you get to watch the recording process in the Peter Jackson documentary, it's just wonderful. So yeah, Two of Us is the track that I pick off there. Let's go back to Abbey Road. This is a tough one. White Album was tough. This might be tougher because almost every song on here is fantastic. Oof. I love the song. I love the Sun King. I really do. I love the whole medley, which goes, "You never give me your money" to the end. That's all one piece of music as far as I'm concerned, and it's masterful. And the guitar playing, everything, the big climax, the big solo, in the end, it's all fantastic. Because is a fantastic track too, but it's kind of a little snippet. And listening to this album, you wonder where the Beatles would have gone because when they fell apart, the competitive spirit of the Beatles, it wasn't breeding this tremendous creativity. Paul had some great stuff. John had some good stuff. George did as well. Ringo is still currently alive, but it's tough to pick off here. But you know what? I'm going to pick. I love Octopus's Garden, but She's So Heavy. She's So Heavy. That's a good one because again, that kind of stands alone in the Beatles catalog. There's nothing else like it. But it also, I always think about at the time, maybe a little later, but the Stones had these songs which kind of just devolved into these kind of Latin sounding jam out sessions, like Santana-ish kind of thing. And Santana had just done Woodstock in '69. This obviously the Abbey Road um, came out in '69. And yeah, that must have been on everybody's mind because what's the Stones song that devolves into a kind of Santana-like jam? I can't remember. We're not talking about the Stones right now. We're talking about the Beatles, which, in my opinion, is the better band of the two. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. But yeah, one song off of Abbey Road. It's definitely going to be, for me, it's going to be She's So Heavy. Definitely. So now we're going to go back to Let It Be. Well, we already did that. We're going to talk about actually just briefly unreleased tracks. My favorite unreleased Beatles track of all time is Don't Let Me Down, which is included on some of the later remastered releases of Let It Be. But I think it's one of my it might be my favorite Beatles song of all time. It's Don't Let Me Down, but it doesn't appear on the official discography. So if we are going to go through the whole list, and I'll just write down my Abbey Road pick, which is She's So Heavy. If we're going to choose one song from every Beatles album, if you're joining me right now, I'm just going to rattle off the entire list. So you can stick around for that, and I'll save you the trouble of having watched the 30-minute video. Cheers. Oh, we lost a viewer. We're going to lose another one. I can feel it. But my favorite song off of every Beatles album, picking only one, Please Please Me. I chose I Saw Her Standing There, which is a Paul track. With the Beatles, I chose You've Really Got a Hold on Me, which is a cover. Hard Day's Night, I chose Can't Buy Me Love, which is a Paul track. Beatles for Sale, I chose I'm a Loser, John track. Help, I chose You're Gonna Lose That Girl, which is a John track. Rubber Soul, I chose Girl, which is a John Lennon track. Revolver, I chose I'm Only Sleeping, which is a John track. Sergeant Pepper's, I chose Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, which is a John track. Magical Mystery Tour, I chose Your Mother Should Know, which is a Paul track. White Album, I chose Happiness is a Warm Gun, John track. Yellow Submarine, Hey Bulldog, John track. Let It Be, Two of Us, Paul track. And Abbey Road, She's So Heavy, which is a John track. And then my favorite unreleased Beatles track of all time is Don't Let Me Down. So there's my list. And if we're going to think, John obviously takes the cake. I'm definitely more of a John guy, but we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 John tracks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 to 4, and then a cover. Sorry, George and Ringo, but you lost that one. Anyways, those are my favorite Beatles tracks going album by album. I'll probably do more live stuff if this turns out good and if the volume is loud enough and the video quality isn't too bad. But hey, thank you very much for watching. If you popped in, if you've missed the list, I thank you for joining me right here at the end. Anyways, you can rewatch this video if you feel like it. If not, you take very good care of yourself, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.